Hello everyone, my name is Michael SK, and welcome back to Anonymous Code. In the previous episode, not a whole lot really progressed. We didn't really get a whole lot of progression in the last episode. We're trying to save Asuma and his mother, and really prevent a calamity that the Holy Office 513 is trying to start by utilizing Asuma. And it is just messy on so many fronts. So with the quests that we actually went on, we would sort of go through it, try to figure out a solution, jump back, and utilize what we've learned in order to fix everything up, to prevent things from happening the way we originally saw it. Makes sense, right? Here, it's not playing out that way. We're trying to have things play out that way. It's, good old reliable. But it seems like there's always something that's getting in the way. And here, it seems like that something is ourselves. Pollon is beginning to lose it. He is blacking out after loading. And we're honestly just appearing in random-ass spots now because, yeah, he just straight up loads. Who knows what the fuck he does? And we don't get to really follow any of that. So we're kind of getting thrown around. We can't really gather our bearings after loading. So things are getting really confusing, and me, myself, I have no idea how we can proceed anymore because we're not even the ones that are allowed to engage in the loading. That's all being done automatically. We're just on a straight shot to, I guess, chaos and insanity. But here we are with Kent Korihisha, no idea what he's doing. That's a very, very interesting line. That is also a very interesting line. We also saw out of Asuma that he has some sort of ability. All right, what's going on here with Felino? She's also the one that's made things a whole lot more difficult with her power being that she can control others through those lovely little cross wounds. Not really sure how all of that goes down, but these sacraments in general have been quite the interesting bits and pieces here to add to the overall plot. Makes things a little bit harder to deal with. Life becomes a little bit more difficult. However, what are we doing here? Also, Asuma, that's right. Asuma, I don't know if you want to say that he's a gigglomaniac. It's something that was on my mind. However, there seems to be some sort of connection between him and Gaia. And Kent just gave us a big ol' hint there. Her face awfully pale, Felino let out a pained breath. On her exposed chest were multiple holy marks. No, they weren't only on her chest. Underneath her clothes, her slender frame was covered with holy marks. All of them were bleeding. Her flock of believers were looking at her with worry in their eyes. Although she felt as if she had lost too much blood, Felino was satisfied with the results she had seen. The Vatican had developed an Earth simulator to determine the validity of miracles. It wasn't able to fully predict Pollon Takaoka's actions, however. Asuma Soga also made predictions with Gaia, so it was possible for him to counter the Vatican's. Lucia and Kent being involved would make predictions even more challenging. It was difficult to gain the upper hand when dealing with these variables. That was why Felino chose to prepare enough lambs to deal with any scenario. Yeah, she has a big-ass flock of people under her wing, including Iwan. There were about 1.3 billion believers in the world, even with the selection limited to the most dedicated proponents of the end. Japan was home to over 100,000 devotees. Wait, so she can control them without physically, being the one that leaves the mark on them? Felino had seen the fate line, as well as Earth simulator predictions. Gaia could never anticipate her actions, and if she used her sacrament, Stigmata, she could create 100,000 strong army that was hers to command, an army outside of the algorithm. Her flock of sacrificial lambs would become God's vanguard. Such an overwhelming numerical advantage could overcome the skill of any one individual. But despite having gone out of her way to prepare her lambs, she had never had the opportunity to use all of them. And thus, just as the fate line had dictated, Asuma's Soga had become a calamity.
そして4つの生き物の一つが世々限りなく生きておられる神の激しい怒りの満ちた7つの金の鉢を7人の御使いに渡した。すると
Yeah, again, I'm not the most religious person, so I can't really follow with a lot of these lines here. I'm sure there's some sort of Christian connection. I'm pretty sure she also gave us a line from the Bible, like, not too long ago either. Yeah, and this is one of them. Perfect. Felina was certain that the path leading to the end neared its completion. I guess maybe there's no way to solve this one. Uh-oh. That was chapter 8. Oh boy. Also, I have no idea why Steam keeps on turning on those little sound effects. I mean, I guess now you guys know whenever I get a Steam achievement. What the fuck is going on here, though? Yeah, like I said, there's some sort of connection going on here. Asuma Soga whispered as he looked down at his mother's corpse. Oh, okay, goodbye. He felt someone had called out to him, but he ignored them and moved instantaneously to his private room. There were a few soldiers in here, but he deleted them the moment he saw them. He had simply wished to move to his room and for the soldiers to disappear. And that was enough to make those things happen. Now Asuma could do with the world as he desired.
今の僕のシンクロ率は 100% を余裕で超えて 320% にまで達してる。わかるんだ。だって僕を見ているのは僕だから。なんだってできる。なんだって。
Yeah, this is getting beyond me, even more so than before, because, I mean, bringing in the idea of Earth simulators so you can quite literally predict a potential future. Then there's, you know, fucking Pollon over here changing all that shit. Yeah, things were already confusing enough, and we're really taking it to a whole nother level. And so Asuma wished. He wished for the view that he'd been fixated on all along. And his wish came true immediately.
Asuma? もう寝なさい。
夜更かしは良くないぞ、Asuma.
Buddy, no, don't do this. His mother and father were here now. The mother who had died after piercing her own neck with a knife was perfectly fine now. She smiled gently at Asuma. His father was there smiling too. Asuma had only seen his father like this in the distant past, back when he was still little, long before the man had committed suicide.
ところでAsuma、明日3人で出かけないか。どこに行きたい？どこでも連れてってやるぞ。
So he brought two people back to life. Just like that.
あなたが行きたいだけでしょ?
And he killed people just like that.
家族3人ずっと一緒だ。
Asuma's parents moved closer to each other. The father gently held the mother's shoulders while she wrapped her hands around his waist. They were happy. They were looking at Asuma with kind smiles on their faces.
Asuma?
Is this not what he truly wanted deep down?
具合が悪いのか?
少し熱っぽいかしら?
The mother put her hand on his forehead to check his temperature.
今日はもう休んだ方がいいわ。
Yeah, honestly.
お前は小さい頃から何かに夢中になると寝るのも食べるのも忘れて没頭する癖があったからな。
Yeah, we've seen a little bit of that, the obsession part. The father gently patted Asuma's head.
無理は禁物だ。明日のことは明日決めよ
う。おやすみなさい、アスマ。
おやすみ、アスマ。また明日。
This was what Asuma had always wished for, and yet...
何も感じない。
Because this isn't real. You have created a false reality here. He simply wished for it to happen, and the father was torn apart, shredded to hunks of meat. Though it happened right before her eyes, and she was covered in her husband's blood and flesh, the mother continued to smile. Kind of in character for her. I really don't know how to really take all this in here. He could feel her warmth. He could feel her throat moving when she spoke. She felt alive. There was no doubt that the mother was made of flesh and blood.
明日はあなたの大好物オムライスを作って
黙れ偽物のくせに
アスマ
This shit is so fucking sad, though. Like, I don't really know how to take all this in, but it is still so sad. Asuma tightened his grip. The light was fading from the mother's eyes.
知ってる
やめろやめろよ
A crack sounded out as the neck was crushed. The fake mother's body fell listless and limp. So easy to create, I guess, I don't know if you want to call it artificial life, but he most definitely had them just pop out of nowhere, and he made them disappear just like that as well. So, now what? We had a whole bunch of people that he killed off, and 2 people that he kind of just brought back to life, and made in his own specific way. I can kind of see why things might get a little disastrous here if he's, you know, taking life and creating life, you know, all willy-nilly.
今母さんの首絞めて殺したのに何も感じない感じるわけないだって何度でも蘇らせることができて何度でも殺せるから
Yeah, that's a really good way to, you know,
無意
treat
味
your
だから
mentality, you know?
すごいわアスマ
Wow,
そんな
dude.
難しいことを考えているなんて
The dead mother stood up and smiled at Asuma once again.
死ね
He decapitated her with invisible blades of air. Her head fell clean off her body and bounced away. She had returned from the grave only to die again. But a moment later, her head was back where it had belonged.
アスマこっちにいらっしゃい
It's more sad not because we're witnessing, you know, this woman die over and over again, but just Asuma falling and falling and falling so far. She gently called him by name.
死ね
Asuma wished for a shotgun. He aimed it at the mother and then pulled the trigger. The blast shredded her torso as it sent her flying backwards. She hit the ground and lay still.
命なんて無意味だ
Well, yeah, especially if you're like in a position of God where you kind of have like complete control over all of it. Yeah, 100%. You might actually see that if you could just take life and create life like that. Asuma gently held his mother's corpse as he cried.
アスマどうして泣くの
Despite the grisly hole in her front and the blood drained from her neck, the mother lovingly caressed Asuma's cheek. He shook her hand off before thrusting a knife into her body. It was the very same knife that she had used to tear open her neck.
無意味だ無意味だよねえそうでしょこんなことしたって何にも感じないんだ何にも
A spherical object rolled suddenly by. The moment Asuma realized it was a grenade, it exploded. After the blast, a dozen or so SFG soldiers hurried into the room. Their form was as tight as you'd expect from an elite unit of soldiers.
ダイノリーダー、こちらアルファ1、目標 A と接触。目標 B も確認。制圧開始します。
The soldiers' voices and footsteps sounded out from within the smoke. Asuma was unscathed by the explosion simply because he'd wished to be.
目標 A、健在今ので死なないだと。ソガアスマ、武器を捨てろ。その女から離れろ。
The soldiers shouted. Asuma found it annoying. Well, those soldiers are about to not exist anymore. He wanted the smoke from the explosion to clear, so it did. And now that he could see, he looked right at the soldiers.
アルファ各員、目標 A を射殺しろ。目標 B を巻き添えにしても構わん。撃て
The bullets did not reach him, though. Before they could, each one flew off in a random direction, defying the laws of physics, because that's what he wanted. They hit the walls and the floor and ricocheted off of them. But not even the ricocheted bullets found their target. Eventually, all the bullets froze in midair.
ほっといてくれよ
The floating bullets then, without a sound, turned to face the soldiers and accelerated to immense speeds. The men unable to escape in time were riddled with lead and reduced to lumps of meat. The soldiers who had opted to take cover instead of running continued attacking despite everything. A wire grenade flew towards him. It caught him and fixed him to the wall behind him. The wire transmitted an electric shock of lethal voltage. The shock should have triggered convulsions, but it did nothing to Asuma. He wasn't even twitching. In fact, he absorbed the electricity from the charge and coated himself in it. Well, I guess he's got to have a little bit of fun with all this power. Years of degradation befell the wire in an instant, and it fell like useless scrap. The scent of burning filled the room. An immense amount of electric energy condensed above Asuma's head. It drowned out the noise of the surroundings, and a moment later, all sound cut to silence. Careful now. Might lose our good old Earth simulator right there. Not that it was in the backdrop, but you know what I mean. In this area. Well, I think it's gone anyways. Never fucking mind, but wow, what a fucking visual. Asuma stood high in the sky. Below him was the Gaia Institute that he had been inside until moments before, as well as the nearby Umanomori Park. The park had been torn open by a large explosion, and countless metal beams littered the area like scattered trees after a storm. It had become a dreary forest of metal thorns. One Asuma had created in an instant. But Asuma wasn't at all interested in the sight below. He was overcome by an intense discomfort akin to dizziness. It was because he wasn't yet used to his 320% sync rate. He was aligned at the subconscious level with the Asuma 1 layer above. He could even communicate with him. It was a feeling no normal person could understand, and it was especially taxing on his nervous system. Asuma looked around. He saw Odaiba in the distance under the veil of night. It was late, so there weren't many people out, but the cityscape was well lit and brilliant. There were lights in some hotel rooms, and one could tell that there were people there. But to Asuma, it was... Yeah, here's our Calamity. His wish was made. And that was enough. Hotels, malls, stores, as well as high-rises and other large buildings began undulating and warping like liquid. The ground in Odaiba began to rise. The reclaimed land warped and stood up vertically. Many high-rises slid off the ground, and once detached, stretched out in all directions like flowers in bloom. We're getting a little creative here, aren't we? They pierced the rising surface and twisted together with other buildings to form a helical shape. Guess it's risen. The ocean water flowed in with great intensity, washed through the streets. The waves flowed upwards and rushing vertically up the walls. Screams could be heard from the twisting, distorting buildings. The buildings crashed together, merging when they should have collapsed, or transforming into complex patterns. The sound of creaking metal echoed eerily through the darkness, The lifted surface folded, flipped, and began to fall. God damn, bro. Please tell me that we're eventually going to jump back. Odaiba had come to resemble one of Esther's I have no idea what the fuck that all is. It was impossible to distinguish up from down. Yeah, I'm down to check up on whatever the fuck that was. I don't even know how to pronounce this name. Maurits Cornelis Esker, 1898 to 1972, was a Dutch artist. He is known for his unique art involving optical illusions, impossible architecture, and changing patterns. Popular among his works are Drawing Hands, Sky and Water 1 or I, whatever that is, and Ascending and Descending. Yeah, I guess you can say that's a whole lot of what's going on here in the background. Asuma slowly made his way towards the twisted urban sprawl.
無意味だ、壊す。無意味だ、壊す。
He repeated those words as if to convince himself. Suddenly, Asuma looked up at a hotel that had been twisted into an arch. He could see people through the broken windows, or rather, their bodies. Aging partners, a young couple, a little girl clinging to a stuffed toy. They're meaningless. That's why I destroyed them. This world should be destroyed entirely. This simulation is garbage. Asuma's mind was rationalizing his actions, but his body was raging against those thoughts. He was trembling. So this is how it is whenever you have creative mode or op commands in the Minecraft server, right? Wow. That was a fucking lot right there. And those screams of despair. Overcome with emotion, Asuma put his hands over his face.
もうこの地球ごと壊れちゃえばいいんだ。
His voice was hoarse and sullen. It had the tone of a boy pleading desperately. Damn, how are we getting out of this one, gang? Beats me. Well, we're following Pollon again. I felt a cold breeze and lifted my head. I could finally see the sky. We'd made it outside somehow. The Gaia Institute had exploded and collapsed, so getting out through all the rubble was an ordeal. I looked around. The whole area was wrecked. You good there? Juno scowled in pain. I'd been holding her up.
ちょっとそろそろ話しなさいよ。
Since she insisted, I sat her down where she stood. Explosions in Odaiba, unknown if accidental? No, I wouldn't say they're accidental. Her side was covered in blood, and her face was even paler than normal. When the explosion had happened, I was overwhelmed by flashbacks and found myself stuck in front of the cradle. If Juno hadn't appeared and saved me with her quantum teleportation, I probably would have been buried under that rubble. But right after we teleported out, I noticed the rebar jutting out from her body. Yeah, that's not all that great. Good thing we were just standing around, you know, unconscious and all that. Yeah, honestly, there probably wasn't anything we could have done there.
リスクは承知の上よ。いつも飛ぶ先の座標は地図に頼ってるから。
Yeah, I guess if you teleport into something, that'll happen.
つまり、こんなめちゃくちゃになってる場所で飛んだら、そこに図面にはない何かがあってもおかしくない。
I wonder what the chances are of, like, accidentally, like, teleporting into a person. I guess that wouldn't matter too much if she's, like, always up on rooftops in areas where people aren't usually or strolling about, but I just do have to wonder.
そうはいかないのよ。お前にはどんなに死にかけようと、とことん働いてもらう。
Yeah, we're kind of working on that right now.
最後に私が殺す。分かったら、ぼーっとしてないで、さっさとこれ抜くの手伝いなさいよ。
Which will, you know, lead her closer to death and more pain, but Juno was still doing her tough lady act, but it was pretty clear her injury hurt really bad. You don't say. You really don't say. It looked like she couldn't even control her BMI properly. She'd probably struggled to teleport like that. I hadn't really given her a chance to brush off my help as we made our way out. But with things the way they were, it might have been impossible to get her some help or take her to a hospital. I saw someone waving at us from the distance. Nothing else around here was moving, so it was probably easy to spot us. Oh, well, good thing Momo's still, you know, not dead.
Momo!
Like everybody else in the vicinity. Momo ran over to us, almost tripping over the rubble on her way. Oh, very much so. Magnitude 7 earthquake strikes Tokyo's Kodo ward. Not really an earthquake, but close enough. Relation to explosion unknown.
うるさい。黙って。私を見るな。
ママ、大丈夫だったか？
ポロンさん、ごめんなさい。私。
Oh yeah, she was with Asuma before he teleported away.
結局俺は何もできなかった。
I feel like the only way we can really manage anything here is to jump even further back. But I read in the comments that there was actually a scenario that I missed here in my Let's Play that apparently Pollon jumped back a little bit too much and he suffered the consequences of it. It's very similar to basically the jumping that Okabe was doing back in Steins Gate. You know, there was only so much you can do. You had to do them in small increments, and even then, that was fucking painful. So, trying to do multiple weeks, for example, might be just enough to kill him. Especially in this case where he's getting these attacks. So, I really don't know how we can approach this one. We're really at a loss, aren't we?
ポロンさん、すごく無理してくれたんですね。
Momo hung her head like she felt guilty. Suddenly there was an intense rumbling in the distance. It sounded like the world was ending. The noise was coming from Odaiba. Even from here I could see Odaiba's high rises twisting like living creatures, splitting apart and rising into the air with the reclaimed land. It was surreal.
何が起こってるんだ？
Oh, lovely. Wynn linked us to a news broadcast.
お台場上空です。ご覧ください。信じられない光景です。
Yeah, I can't believe it either.
あの高層マンションの一つ一つに何百人、何千人もの住民の方々が取り残されていると思われます。現在、お台場への道路は寸断されており、行き来ができない状態です。
Earthquakes alter Odaiba landscape.
総理官邸は垂直に
That
立ち
is
上がった地面
happening.
に。
Wait, Prime Minister's official residence destroyed. Okay. Prime Minister's well-being uncertain, as we just heard
原因
here.
については浮いてる。
Yeah, he's just flying about.
危ない！稲森さん？現場の稲森さん？
An explosion rattled the sky over Odaiba. We weren't far from it, so we could see the light it had cast in the distance.
ああ、今見た？
Yeah.
報道のヘリ。
Yeah, we kind of
されたよね。
Shut up, Win. We saw both fucking sides of that.
ねえ、ポロタ、オズ、何が起こってるの？なんか怖いよ。
あれ全部アスマがやったのか？
Oh, yeah. First the explosion at Gaia, and now this? How the hell was this even possible?
サクラメントみたいなものか。
その規模じゃありません。これは聖母降臨の奇跡すら凌駕しています。
Governor of Tokyo doing everything to get a grasp of the situation. There is no grasp to get here. Momo trembled as she stared at the
こ
carnage.
の世の終わり、アルマゲドンと呼んでもいいもの。
Yeah. Yeah, it sort of seems like it. Well, let's see our tip here. Armageddon, the location of the battle between good and evil that will occur in the end times. According to the New Testament's book of Revelation, the world can also be used to refer to the end of the world in general, or the word can also be used for it. Yeah, I don't think this is necessarily the
物
rapture.
理現象ではありえないわ。あのエネルギーがどこから来てるのか説明できない。
デジタルなんだよ。
Wait, what?
オズ、何か知ってるのか？
Residents of Minato, Shinagawa, and Kodo wards ordered to evacuate. Everybody in this fucking vicinity should be evacuating.
知ってるもんだ。
Far and wide.
前に議論したろ。量子論を突き詰めれば、世界はデジタルだって結論になるんだ。信じたくなかった。だからずっと否定する材料を探し続けてたってのに。
You know, the new Futurama season, excuse me, their season finale actually had an episode that was based on, hey, what if we're in a simulation? And well, here we are.
あんな光景を
The
現
world is
実に見せられ
digital.
たら
It's not real.
信じざるを得ねえだろ。世界はデジタル。 この世界はシミュレーションだ。もう何の希望もねえ。魂なんてどこにもなかったんだよ。
あ、ちょっと
Yeah, that might be enough to really just push O's over the Yeah, that's enough to push O's over the edge. He was already kind of like sitting there at the edge for a long time, as we found out not too long ago, but yeah, a realization like that where, you know, what is the meaning of life, as Asuma has been, you know, just blowing shit up, asking that question. Yeah, that'll do it. I had never seen Oz that shocked. Every one of his beliefs had been shattered. Everything that rooted him to the ground had come unstuck in an instant. Well, think of it this way. The reason why, you know, somebody would be so distraught over that is because you work so hard, because we are living beings. We have life, we have meaning, we have purpose. And in a simulation, sure, you may have purpose in that simulation, with such a very small, minute purpose, but you have no life. Your life is controlled. You're nothing through the eyes of those outside of the simulation. And I'm sure that, like, I don't know if religion can really fit in there, but it definitely is disturbing to think like that, or to think that, oh yeah, we are in a simulation, life has no meaning and all that. And if that was the case, then yeah, I mean, it'd be so, I guess, what word am I looking for here? I don't know. But yeah, it wouldn't be a good time. I mean, we can all agree with that one at least. Was that the sensation? Wait, what was the last line? Did I even read that? Every one of his beliefs had been shattered. Everything that rooted him to the ground had come unstuck in an instant. Was that the sensation?
この世界はシミュレーションか。
Honestly, it didn't hit me that hard. Maybe it was because I had already been exposed to so much sci-fi bullshit. I had already seen sacraments and quantum teleportation. Yeah, there's a lot of unexplainable things that have happened throughout the Science Adventures series, but I mean, they try to tie them in with some form of science. These sacraments, quantum teleportation is definitely fucking beyond me. It really does take things to a whole nother level, and you have to start doubting what is actually happening here. This explained my saving and loading too. Yeah, then there's that. There's absolutely no fucking reason that a fucking BMI app should give you this video game ability. There has to be something else going on, right? We're not rewriting a timeline or jumping world lines or anything, so what's actually going on here? Actually, it seemed pretty clear now. You could even say that my saving and loading was evidence this world was digital.
上の人たちだったということですよね。
Yeah, that higher layer.
このシミュレーションを見てる上の俺たちがいる。
What if we're in that Gaia? Something like that big-ass Earth simulator. Whatever the strongest and bestest there could be. What if that's what we've been in this whole time? But for what sort of purpose, you know? Obviously, I couldn't see them. But I couldn't help looking up at the sky.
そいつこそが本物の俺。
Hello.
すなわちそれが
Hey, yo,
世
what up,
界
Ken?
層という概念だ。
ね、さ、
Suddenly, Cicada, Kent Korihisha, appeared before us.
堀久健人
He'd finally shown his face directly. But despite how long we had waited for this meeting, we weren't in a position to enjoy it.
我々の世界にも地球シミュレータがある。その地球シミュレータで動かしているシミュレーション世界の中にも地球シミュレータはある。
Yeah, it just keeps on going deeper and deeper and
無限
deeper.
に下上のソガアスマがこれほどに無茶な操作ができる地球シミュレータとは何だ？
How far does this fucking go, dude?
そうだ。これまでの聖母降臨などが全てアスマによる干渉だとは思わないが、少なくとも今のこの状況は彼によるものだろう。
この世界層のアスマさんの願いを上のアスマさんがその通りに実現させているということですか？
Kent nodded.
では週末はアスマさんが引き起こすんですか？
Yeah, it sort of seems like it, all of a sudden, huh?
週末とソガアスマが災いと化したこととは無関係だ。
Wait, then what causes the end of the world then?
彼が何をしようと週末は訪れる。その到来は 世界が生まれた瞬間から決まっていた。
待ってくれ。この世界がシミュレーションだって言うなら、終末そのものをパラメータでも何でもいじって回避できるはずだろ。
Asuma had said that Gaia could simulate the world beyond January 19th, which was when the world was supposed to end.
それとも上が終末を望んでるってのか？
これはシステムの問題だ。2038年問題については聞いたことがあるだろう。
Yep, I already read the tip. Like the year 2036 problem that caused the sad morning, it was an issue with the potential to cause major computer malfunctions. Okay, so that whole Unix time thing or whatever. Yeah, okay. I knew that we read something about that recently. The integer used to record the time in Unix-based systems would overflow after counting past 2.1 billion seconds. Alright, we'll read our little tip here. Systems operating on the Unix OS or its derivatives. Unix was developed in 1969 by the US company AT&T and exploded in popularity when they released its source code. Its long history has led to it becoming the foundation of many operating systems. My use with Unix is very limited. All I know is that nobody can fucking explain how to properly, utilize it for programming and shit. We had to utilize it, I don't remember in what sort of way, back whenever I was taking some other programming classes in university. I think it was whenever I was doing some forms of, simulations, maybe? I don't want to say that because, that's tying in way too fucking, in too much of a coincidental manner here, but I think whenever we were trying to actually test shit, it had to be in, a Unix environment of some sort, which was really fucking annoying to get prepared. I don't really remember what I did. It was a part of my dark education past. It was possible that this overflow would trigger major system malfunctions.
それが私たちのいるこの世界にも適用される。
Momo had said that the world would end at 3:14, 7 seconds past that time on January 19th, 2938. I had a vague idea that that was when the overflow was set to happen too.
2038年問題はほぼ 100% 対策がされています。だから大したことは起きないはずでは。
我々がいる世界層だけが対策をしても意味はない。
It has to be resolved on the layer
無限
above.
に続く世界層、その全てで完璧に対策をしなければ。
Countless world layers. They were literally innumerable, but everything would be over if we, or if even, wait, hold on. But everything would be over if even if a, okay, what the fuck, game? Come on. If even a single one of them had this error. Yeah, I mean, if one of the ones on top of us cannot fix this fucking problem, expand our, I guess, memory? Is that the problem? Whatever type of variable is being used here so that we can actually, continue counting forward or whatever. If they cannot do that and fix this issue, then all the ones downward will fail because they're relying on everything above. I mean, I get that, but that is just, oh, it's getting confusing to think about.
接触者か。そういえばあんた、俺も接触者だって言ってたな。
It's because we have somebody from the layer above that has been working with the Pollon here in this world for things to go, smoothly. But for what purpose? What has been the reasoning for all this saving and loading? What are we trying to see in this world that could be utilized in the layer above?
生務室は
Because I'm assuming that is the overall goal here, is to discover something here in this simulation to use in the world layer above us.
接触者は神または聖母と接触することで何らかの奇跡のような力を身につけることがあると聞く。高岡ポロン、君の未来予測も神または聖母と接触して得たものであるはずだ。
セーブ&ロードのことか。確かにアノニマス君に接触されたけど。
That's how I became a contactee? But did that even matter? Asuma became a calamity however many times I saved or loaded. I couldn't stop that. Hey, yo. There was another eerie rumble emanating from Odaiba. This one shook even the ground we were standing on. The buildings and businesses that had been twisting like serpents suddenly stopped. buildings and streets started falling from the vertical surfaces, they couldn't resist gravity any longer. I'd leave the matter of saving the world to Kent. He'd said that there was still a way to do that. There was something else I had to do.
けど、世界とジュノのことは頼む。俺はアスマに会いに行く。
I looked at Momo, and she gave me a nod. Husband of protest leader at the Prime Minister's official residence is claiming that he is unable to contact her. All right, cool.
私も行きます。
会ってどうする？
俺は、あいつの母親を助けてやれなかったんだ。
So what if it was all fated? That didn't make any of this any easier on me or Asuma. If I'd handled this better, things wouldn't have turned out so messed up. I was pretty sure there was nothing I could say to heal his wounds, but...
今、あいつを一人でほっとくなんてできない。とにかく会って、話をしないと。
無意味だ。蘇我アスマが災いと化すのは防げなかった。もはや、元の状態には戻せない。
But if we can talk to him now, maybe there's something we can gain if we jump back again?
だから今さら会いに行ってもしょうがないって。でもさ、そういうわけにはいかないんだよ。俺はあいつに、せめて謝らないといけないんだ。
I guess the realization that this is a simulation isn't stopping Pollon from trying to be as human as he is. Wow. Mind-blowing. Just insanity. But we've heard of world layers before, right? I feel like that's a term that's been utilized before. Just throwing that out there. Any other tips that popped up there? Nope, we're good on that front. Actually, how are we doing on tips? It doesn't feel like that there's like a whole lot of them in this, but looks like there's some A's, C, a D. I mean, we've gotten the majority of them. There's not much more to get out of that. There's only one numerical one, and who knows what this one is, but we've pretty much gotten all of the tips here. There's probably some that we won't be able to get because they're on, I don't want to say routes, but they probably pop up after you jump from certain points in the game, and I know for a fact that I've missed a lot of them that don't necessarily lead to a good route or a bad route or anything like that, but I definitely know I've missed some. Okay, we are now in Chapter 9. Let me see if I can save it here. Nope. How about here? Oh, you know what? Yeah, I can see that it's got like a different design there. Okay. Oopsies. All right, what a lovely symbol that is. I mean, the symbol for Chapter 8 was the that fucking cube that Asuma was utilizing. No idea about this one. But Chapter 9, here we are. I really don't know what to expect. Thinking about, you know, there being world layers and not really knowing how far deep it all goes, and, you know, so many worlds could just be encapsulated in constant simulations going further and further in, is a very scary thing to think about. But goddamn, that fucking Futurama episode. If you guys have never watched Futurama, please do. It's a whole lot of fun. But the latest season over on Hulu that they just did, that last episode, give it a watch. It's silly, but it also has a really good fucking, like, not tie-in, but it's got a very similar idea of what's going on here. It really actually throws something pretty interesting together. But thank you all for watching this episode. I do hope you all enjoyed it. Don't worry, I am so fucking confused, but we'll figure that part out later. If you enjoyed this episode, though, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one for more fuckery and confusion.